All right. Good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast. Good afternoon also to those of you on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, also co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. And thanks so much for joining us wherever you're watching from. As you know, every Saturday we try to do our best to give you the rundowns of the goings on in pop culture. And I, of course, will not be alone in talking about some of the news bits that are happening on this show that we have known as This Week in Pop Culture. So I want to bring on my co-host, aka Spills, Mr. Spillman Trueheart. What's going on, man?
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? How are we doing this week? We got big thumbs up. We're doing our thing. Um, you know, New things are happening. The ground is shaking. The sky will be black. A new Herald
There,
of Galactus has been selected.
there you go. Right. Awesome, awesome. So let's dive in. I want to get into our first story, and this is centered around Rajon Rondo. So this was a story that came about this past Monday on the All the Smoke podcast. Point guard Rajon Rondo officially announced that he is retiring from the NBA, attributing his decision to a desire to spend more time with his kids. The two-time NBA champion and four-time All-Star will retire with an impressive resume for his 16-year career that includes, aside, of course, from his two championships that I just mentioned, an all-rookie second team, two-time all-defensive second team, two-time all-defensive first team, and an all-NBA third team. If that weren't enough, he is 15th on the NBA's all-time assist list, and he is only one of four players, those other three players being John Stockton, Magic Johnson, and Steve Nash, to average 11 plus assists for 4 seasons. Spillman, what are your thoughts on Rondo announcing his retirement?
Obviously Rondo has had a great career. He played for the hated rival and he played with us and won championships with both. I think obviously when we think of Rondo, we do think of a Celtic. I know you think of a Celtic. So
Yes.
um, he got us that chip that people like to say don't count, but actually do count because you just said two-time champion. You didn't say one time plus a bubble championship. He got two championships. So great career. Really is one of those ball players that can do everything. He can rebound, he can drop dimes, he can do all that, but also he can control the game without shooting the ball too much, which you know helps. That's how those Celtics teams won those championships. So looking at teams today that don't have point guards like the Suns, they need a Rajon Rondo type guy, somebody to run the show to get it done. How do you feel about Rajon Rondo?
I mean, what haven't you already said? I mean, I agree with everything that you've already expressed so far. In that, I do, as much as he has played for other teams. To me, he will always be a Celtic. He'll always be a part of that crew that included Garnett and Ray Allen and Paul Pierce, and that run that they had, and that squad that they had. Um, it's not something that we see a whole bunch of these days. I know we talk about it a lot with the league, in that there's so many impressive feats that are happening in the league, and it's offensive, impressive feats versus defensive impressive feats. And just as you said, he's the type of player that can affect the game without having to score. Don't get me wrong, he's capable of scoring, and he continued to evolve his game while he was in the league, because he was never really a jump shooter. But in his time, being with the teams that he's played for, whether it's the Celtics, whether it's the Lakers, or any other team, he was able to be at least a respectable jump shooter, because I remember earlier in his career, a lot of people used to play off of him because they didn't really respect his ability to shoot, and he continued to work at it. A lot of times you'll see some players, they'll kind of rest on their laurels and just continue to do the things that they have strengths in, versus continuing to work on those things that will continue to make them a threat as a player. And he continued to do so. Aside from that, and speaking of what I was saying about the impressive offensive feats, we don't really see that these days where we have those players that can play both sides of the ball effectively. They're either one or the other. They're either a very impressive, stopper, or they're a scorer. And so
Yeah.
I think he's going to be one of the last ones for a while, but until like the league, evolves back to kind of that same mentality. Because right now I feel like it's very much score first type of mentality. He's one of those last few point guards that we had that was able to do it on both ends versus just one end. So, any last thoughts before we move on to our next story?
Do you think that Rondo is a Hall of Famer?
I do. And I'll say this: the reason being that I feel like he's a Hall of Famer is, I mentioned that one stat, that rarefied stat that you had with the assists. To be within the same breath of players like Steve Nash and Magic Johnson and John Stockton, and have that a part of your resume of being one of those four players to have that type of feat. I feel like that gives further credence to how talented and how consistent he was as a player in terms of his excellence. And then also too, to we have so many players that are Hall of Famers that have not won titles. He won two, and not only did he win two, he won two with two separate teams. So yeah, he's definitely a Hall of Famer to me. I don't know how you feel on that subject, but yeah, for sure.
Oh, I think he hands down is a Hall of Famer. I feel like he played on so many good teams. He's got the All NBA accolades. Yeah, he's got All NBAs, All NBAs. But I saw another divisive argument that they were making that Steve Nash or Rondo, who's the better point guard?
Ooh, I'm gonna have to give the slight nod to Nash.
I don't know, because you look at it.
He didn't win any titles. See,
he didn't win, and that Suns team was basically that Celtics team. They didn't. They had a big man on the Celtics.
That's a fair point.
But like Amari and KG was like equal kind of guys.
But the only reason why I say Nash is because you had that feat that they've talked about even in today's game of having. I think it was like his free throw percentage, his field goal percentage.
50, 40, 90.
That's crazy. That is crazy. So
I don't know. It's not too many guys who do 50, 40, 90 and win a chip.
You pluck him from those teams that he played for, and do you really see those teams having that level of success that they've had? If you,
I feel like if you swap the two, I don't know. If you could swap the two, like if you could put Steve Nash on the 08 Celtics, or put Rondo on that 06, 07 Suns team, that'd be interesting. I don't know. But
I'll give you that.
That's a barbershop argument for a different day, ladies and gentlemen.
There you go. But no, that's a good point. So sticking within the realm of basketball, this is centered around Bronny James, aka LeBron James Jr. Yesterday, he announced via his IG that he would be entering the NBA draft while also maintaining his college eligibility, which of course, will leave the door for him to be able to take advantage of the transfer portal. The 6'4" All-American wrapped up his freshman season that was this current season, averaging 4.8 points a game. So Spillman, I know you're a big LeBron James fan, but calling it spade to spade and being objective, what are your thoughts on Bronny entering into the NBA draft?
I feel like this should be at the commissioner's office for tampering, because that's what they're doing. This is tampering.
Explain, sir.
They're saying, hey, LeBron's son, he's like Giannis. He's Giannis right now. He's Giannis. If you are in the NBA circles, you understand what I mean when I say Giannis, not Giannis.
I feel like that's kind of strong. Knowing what I know about that player, I feel like that's kind of strong. But go ahead. No. I'll let you have. Go ahead.
I just feel like I don't remember where USC was in the big tournament this year. Did you see them in the crowd of 64? No. I feel like if you're an NBA level player, you're gonna take your team somewhere in the big dance. Look at Steph Curry. Steph Curry boogieing in the big dance. And usually they boogie against players who are quote unquote supposed to be better than them. That's how you know somebody's like ready for the big show. To me, in my eyes, I'm not an analyst. I don't know. But I feel like anybody I ever heard that had a name could play in pressure situations like that. And I've never really seen Bronny do that. So to me, I feel like he declared because maybe somebody pick him up where LeBron wants to go. Let's say some warm place drafts Bronny. What's LeBron going to do? He might sign with them. So
No, I hear you. I hear you. I guess I'll say this. I've observed, and mind you, I'm not an official NBA analyst, but I mean, we both play basketball. We can give the eye test and have an idea of whether a player demonstrates that they have the abilities to be able to, or the intangibles to be able to play. And I mean, Bronny is not a scrub. As I said, he's an All-American, but at the same time, too,
was that preseason?
I'm just saying. But hold on, I'm just saying the optics are just not the greatest with you averaging barely, not even 5 points a game. And
he was a freshman, though. I'll give him that. He's a freshman. He had a major medical issue. I will give him that.
I understand that. But if we're really being objective and comparing him to other, freshman players, whether there's that circumstance or not, because if there was that circumstance, if we're going to that, I feel like he should have sat out longer, versus going back as soon as he did. But if we're really being objective and talking about other freshman players that have demonstrated that they could play at the college level, if not higher, we're talking about what? We're talking about our Kevin Durant, his freshman year was killing his freshman year.
Kevin Durant, Carmelo.
If we're talking about Carmelo, if we're talking about Barrett, with that squad that Duke had, that freshman squad that Duke had just recently with what is it, Barrett and what's his name? Zion. Thank you. We're killing it. So as freshmen, and when we're talking about, they're playing against, players at 3-4 years ahead of them, and they were killing. So here's the thing. I do believe that Bronny has the, I feel like he has that motor. He has the athleticism to be successful in the league, but I still feel that he needs another year. And more so than that, I feel like he needs to get out of the state of California. He does not need to be at USC. He needs to establish a reputation for himself in a different program, because I feel like in a different program there will be an opportunity there for him to have a more pivotal role in that team, and that also be one of the leaders and even one of the starters on that team. Because I don't necessarily feel like you need to be a starter. I've seen NBA stars enter the league and they weren't starters on their college team. So that's not what I'm getting at. But I feel like you need to be a pivotal part of that team, and I feel like he needs to do so in a different program. So I understand what you're saying, with where you stand with the draft and all of that. But at the end of the day, he is LeBron James.
He's the honest. At the end of the day, all we got to do is sign him. We might have a chance to get that seat filler.
I'm saying at the end of the day, I feel like he's trying to establish his options. It would be one thing if he said that, oh, I'm just declaring for the draft and that's it. He has left the option there.
Well, I mean,
and to take advantage of the transfer portal. So,
but I feel like if his name was, say, Brandon Jr. instead of LeBron Jr., we would not be having this conversation. He would just transfer schools and we wouldn't hear about it anymore. I feel like that's a cop out to say, oh, it's because he needs to get out of California. LeBron didn't go to college.
But here's what I'm
almost died. Exactly. Unfortunately, I hate to say that, but he had a terrible medical issue.
He needs another year.
I feel like it's just pushing it to get Dad, because this is a contract window for Dad.
I feel like for him, if I'm picturing from his perspective, he probably feels like he's in a rock and a hard place. You know,
Yeah,
he
he's
wants
not a
to,
lottery pick.
but I'm saying he wants to play with his dad and accomplish that goal that perhaps they both set for themselves together. So that's why he still went into the draft to see if there was a possibility there, even if it's a first or second round thing. But for himself,
He ain't going in the first round.
I don't believe he's going in the first round. I'm not saying
Not
that.
at all.
I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying to see where he may fall and where that potential is, because even if he backs out of the draft, at least he knows where he stands, among other prospects. And then, should he go back into, college and play another year, he'll have a kind of a feel of, okay, this is where I may fall if I can, put in a successful, sophomore year. Like I said,
I
I
feel
do
like if he
believe
doesn't get drafted this year, he's never going to get drafted.
I don't believe that. Like I said, I believe that the best
His
option
younger
for him.
brother's better than him. His younger
I
brother's
do
better
believe
than him
that.
today.
I do believe
And
that.
that's not
I
good.
do
If your
believe
younger
that.
brother's better than you and he's a junior college, or you a freshman in
I do
college.
believe. Look, hold on. I do believe that he has a higher upside than Bronny does.
Oh
But
yeah,
but I will
yeah.
say I do believe that
Bryce is a
Bronny.
problem.
I still believe Bronny has the skills, if he continues to develop, to be a solid NBA player. He may not be a superstar, but I do believe that he has the skills necessary to be a player. I just don't believe that it's right here, right now. I feel like it's a year away. If he can go to another program and he could take advantage of transferring to another school and getting out of the shadow of being in California, where his dad also plays, and playing somewhere else, I do believe that he has an opportunity to really establish something for himself and to be able to up his prospects for next year going into the NBA draft. But we'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Probably. I mean, if he don't get drafted this year, it's over. Bryce is coming. Bryce is nice. I like Bryce. Bryce is good.
Yeah, but
He
Bryce
looks like
is
his dad.
nice.
He looks more like his dad in high school.
But I'll leave you with this. Even though Bryce is nice, who has a better chance of playing with their father, Bronny or Bryce? If Bryce is going to be a higher,
Bryce,
oh no
because
no no
Bryce
no
is
no
going to
no
get
no,
drafted.
listen to my logic here. Listen to my logic here. If Bryce ends up being an NBA prospect, if he's higher on that, on that lottery, there's a higher likelihood that he's not going to play with his father versus Bronny, who may be lower and have an opportunity to still be able to play with his father based on where those lotteries fall with each of those teams. Feel like there's a higher chance with Bronny than it is with Bryce. Bryce has a higher likelihood of getting into the league faster. I agree with you there, but
Yeah, yeah, we'll see.
we'll see.
That boy, good. I don't know.
Oh no,
We'll
no
see.
doubt, no doubt, no
Both of
doubt.
them are good players. They both good players.
Yeah. So all right. So switching gears into the world of film. Let me bring this up for you guys. Give me 1 second. Here we go. See if we can get this up here. Was it delayed? There we go. All right. So getting into the world of film, of superhero film, if you will. This past Wednesday, it was reported by Deadline that Emmy Award winner Julia Garner has been cast as a Shalla-Bal iteration of the iconic Marvel character known as the Silver Surfer for the upcoming Fantastic Four film from Marvel Studios. Being directed by WandaVision Helmer Mac Shackman, the film will see Garner join an impressive cast that includes Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards, aka Mr. Fantastic, Vanessa Kirby, who will be playing Sue Storm, aka the Invisible Woman, Joseph Quinn, who will be playing Johnny Storm, aka the Human Torch, and Eben Moss Bachrach, who is playing Ben Grimm, aka the Thing. Now, for those of you who are old enough, you'll recall that there were two actors who portrayed the male version of this character. That is, with Doug Jones being, the physical actor, and Lawrence Fishburne being the voice in the 2007. Gosh, wow, that is
We're
17 years.
old, man.
Almost,
We're
we're old,
old.
y'all. We're all old. Almost 20 years ago, 17 years ago. So, Spillman, you hear this? That we're getting a female version of the Silver Surfer. But based on those who know their comics, we know that there is a connection to the male iteration that's associated with that character. What are your thoughts?
I feel like the people who are complaining did not watch Ozarks because she was the herald for my guy Marty in Ozark. She was the herald. She had them all plugged in, and that's what the Silver Surfer does. Silver Surfer plugs Galactus into the hood of planets, if you will. But no, she's a great actress. She was very good on that show about the hipster swindler. She was that great on that show. She's got great range. She could do accents and stuff. So I'm very into this. I like the casting. She was very good on Ozark. I really liked her on Ozark. I don't understand how you could watch a show like that and have somebody be that diabolical and put so much emotion into a role and stuff like. It almost sometimes feels like people on the internet do not care about good things. Like they rather you say, oh, we're gonna spend a little bit extra money and not get that like just the name on the bottle version of stuff. We're gonna get some actual high class groceries, but they don't want you to cook good food or make good art. So like I like this casting. How do you feel about it?
I like the casting as well. I like when we're going against expectations and kind of diverting expectations. It's there's a certain irony in the fact that a lot of times people say, well, that's not like the comics, or like that didn't happen in the comics, but it did happen in the comics. And she is vital to that whole world of the Silver Surfer in general. Whether she becomes a Silver Surfer or her better half becomes the Silver Surfer. So I have no issues, with the casting here. I'm just interested to see how they're going to, tackle the film in and of itself, because I do understand that the film, and this is getting into mild spoilers, so this I'll say starting spoiler
La
right
la la
now
la
is just
la.
the idea that apparently the Fantastic Four are not going to be from the MCU that we know. They're not going to be from that 616, cinematic universe that is, the main universe. They're going to be coming from another universe and making their way over to the 616 universe, which, makes sense because there's so much that has already been established already. It would be
That they should have been in, yeah, for sure.
kind of weird to say, oh, Fantastic Four, they've been here this whole time. They were here since the 60s this whole time. And while, you could still say, oh yeah, they disappeared, people would still remember them as a group. And if we're talking about having Silver Surfer and Galactus, I feel someone would remember
Yeah,
Galactus making
yeah.
it to Earth, Silver Surfer making it to Earth. So
Someone would. It's
um
like he trying to eat the whole planet, y'all.
but I don't know. Stranger things have happened. We still haven't addressed the big celestial in the water, but I guess we're supposed to be addressing that in Captain America, from what I understand. So we'll see. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
Uh, no, I have no issues here. I'm looking forward to what the aesthetic is going to be like, with it being a period piece of happening in the 60s, and what that's going to look like with that alternate universe that this Fantastic Four is residing in. Did you have any last thoughts before we get into our next story?
I just, guys on the internet, you're not helping your case. What are we doing, fellas? You haven't even seen the movie yet. They complained about Michael Keaton being Batman. Remember that. Remember, they complained.
They complained about what's his name, playing Joker, Heath Ledger playing the
They
Joker.
did. They said,
And
I don't want Nice Tail playing Joker. That's what we said.
look what we got, y'all. Look what we got.
Exactly. So, yeah.
So, but getting into our next story, and this is also within the world of superheroes. I wanted to bring this up, and this was brought up by or dropped, I should say, on the the IG of central casting. I'll bring this up now, and this is centered around Daredevil, Born Again. It was revealed that rapping had concluded for the series. So, for those of you that are not familiar with that term, just means that they finish doing all of their shooting with the actors. And if you aren't well versed with that, additionally, it doesn't necessarily mean that the film is going, or say that the series is going to come out in a couple of weeks. There's still going to be a couple of months left over, in which they'll probably be putting in, some effects that they, still need to put in with the series. But what are your thoughts with the series finally, coming, finishing up its shooting schedule? Because I mean, it's gone through a tumultuous time of shooting the film, Spillman, and then they completely scrapped it and redid it again. So now we are at the finish line where the series is done. It's just a matter of just waiting for them to finish, brush up on any effects before they finally release it.
I am very excited about this. The Daredevil show on Netflix was possibly the best show that they had on Netflix of those Marvel shows. Um, I feel like Born Again is one of my all-time favorite comic book stories, so I'm really excited to see them do this. I thought this was okay. Yes, this is a series, so I'm happy that they're doing this as a
Yeah.
series and not as a movie, because it's one of those that needs to build. Like I almost feel like they should have made Watchmen a movie, a series instead of a movie, because it has so much nuance that
Oh,
they
they
had
did.
to take
They
out.
did. They didn't do the story that we have in the movie, but they did do a
No,
series.
but I mean that series is a standalone. I don't call that like the same thing. But I
Okay.
feel like they should have done it that way. But because this is a series, and it's one of my favorite things ever. Like this 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 Frank Miller story is just, you can't go wrong with this. And this is him in his wheelhouse. This is him with like custom model Mike Tyson, just real tight and big, right on the nose. So I'm just really excited for that. I don't know how you feel about Born Again,
Oh no, I'm
but
I'm definitely excited about it. I do like the fact that I, I feel like, and not to get too like, spiritual here on the show, but I always feel like things happen for a reason. Cause I know for the longest time there were some actors who didn't get asked to come back when they were doing it initially. And now that they redid it, they did ask those actors to come back. And I'm talking about, Foggy, I'm talking about Karen.
yeah,
Having, still that same family of or family, because I mean at the end of the day, when you're talking about ensembles like that and doing a show, doing 14, 15-hour days, working on a given show, people don't understand that. Like, as someone who has done that part of it, and the toll that it takes on you, and the effort that it takes, people don't understand how many hours worked, it takes to do a show, to do a film. And when you're spending that much time with people, at the end of the day, you end up becoming very close with them, and they end up becoming, like family. And so even within that finite amount of time that it is, shooting on a film for a couple of months, it's still a lot of time in a given day. And so it's great to have all of those actors, a lot of those actors back. It's great to see, other familiar faces with some other superheroes, because I know John Bernthal has been, posting on his social media about shooting parts of Born Again. And this, again, going to spoiler, I'll say that he is returning. The Punisher is returning in the spoiler. We don't know exactly what the specifics of it are, but we've seen a set photos of him, all bloodied up in his, Punisher garb. So definitely, interested to see what they have in store. I know that they teased a couple of things of what Kingpin is going to be up to, and they kind of set it up at the end of what is it of what's the series that just literally Echo. They just, recently, at towards the tail end of that show, they tease, his aspirations to run for mayor. And if we're talking about that whole story arc, it's a very intriguing story arc, of him
Yeah.
doing campaigning to be the mayor. So I'm very interested in what they have in store for us in that regard. So any last thoughts before we get to our last story?
No, just really excited for this. Again, Born Again. It's just, it's what if you like comic books, this is what you supposed. This is what it's just perfect. Like you know, I just can't wait to see him standing on the pile and just like I get this guy now. So yeah.
For sure, for sure. All right. So, getting into our last and final story, you saw it there in the promo that we had for this actual episode of This Week in Pop Culture. It's centered around Craig Gillespie, and to speak further, on Mr. Gillespie, this past Wednesday, it was announced that he is in talks to direct the new Supergirl film releasing under the slate of projects for DC Studios, being led by James Gunn and Peter Safran. Now, if you're not familiar with his work, Mr. Gillespie directed the film Cruella, as well as I, Tonya, and he also directed Dumb Money. Spillman, you hear about them being able to finalize what they have with the director, with their helmer for this project, and what are your thoughts?
I actually liked what he did on I, Tonya, the movie about um, what is that? Nicole Kidman. Not Nicole Kidman.
Tanya
Nancy
Harding.
Kerrigan. Nancy
Yeah,
Kerrigan and Tommy Harding. Yeah, that's the
yeah.
names. But yeah, so the way that he shot that movie is perfect for video for comic book movies to me, because he does very close lines and everything that work very well to me. I think that he's done a lot of good things as far as how he does his cinematography. I think obviously that's what I think makes for a good comic book director, movie director. But also, I wonder like what Supergirl are we going to get? Because if it's going to be the plastic one, I feel like that's going to be weird and hard to like translate to the screen. So what do you have any tea leaves that you think is going to be the movie?
I mean, well, they do give some details regarding the film, and this story was dropped to us by a Hollywood Reporter. So in talking further, about that film, and this is again quoted, in the article there, it talks it discusses it in the following way. We will be able to see the difference between her and Superman, and who was, or should say, we'll be able to see the difference between Superman, who was sent to Earth and raised by loving parents from the time he was an infant, versus Supergirl, raised on a rock, a chip off of Krypton, who has watched everyone under her die and be killed in terrible ways for the first 14 years of her life. So that's going to be two separate, two very different perspectives in terms of how someone will be, approaching the world. So that will be interesting to see. I do like the actress that they have selected. She's from House of the Dragon, who will be portraying Supergirl. It'd be none other than, and let me pull it up here. I just had it here a moment ago, but I loved what she did on, as I said, on House of the Dragon. So I'm very much, looking forward to what she's going to do with this role. This is with Millie Alcock. She'll be playing Kara Zor-El. So we'll see. I'll just say in general, the jury is still kind of out right now of what the whole aesthetic of this DC universe is going to look like under James Gunn and Peter Safran. Um, they have thus far said all the right things that you want to hear when you're talking about when they're talking about, their approach with this universe and what they're planning to do. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't, hit in the same way, or the aesthetic, doesn't really, grab people, is not really going to matter. So this Superman film is really, going to be pivotal. If that doesn't really connect with people, then I feel like it's just going to be a domino effect through all the other films. They're really going to have to knock it out of the park with this Superman film for all of those other films to work. So I don't know where you stand on that. As I said, they've been saying, both of them have been saying all the right things. It feels like in discussing what they're planning to do, but I'll believe it once I see some footage from Superman, which unfortunately we're not even going to get a look at in with some of the shows that upcoming this year. Like, from what I understand, I believe so. Now I'll confirm that. I don't believe they're even. I think it's been confirmed that they aren't even going to be coming to San Diego this year, which is odd. Um, and I mean, in one respect, I do understand it. You want to make sure that what you show is something, buzzworthy, that the what you try to prepare for that, because a lot of times they prepare stuff specifically for Comic-Con that is not something that is unfinished, or the visual effects aren't finished. They want to make sure that it's absolutely polished and where it needs to be. I get that part of it, but at the same time, too, you have so much riding on this movie, where a lot of the other films, are going to be in a rough place if this one doesn't connect the right way. So I don't know what your thoughts.
Yeah, but I feel like, Supergirl is a movie for them. I don't feel like Supergirl is a pillar of the DC universe as far as like the content that they've pushed for the last 75 years. So if she does well, I mean, the movie in the 80s worked. Like we like that one from the 80s, kind of, even though it was hard to find for a while, but it was cool. But yeah, I just like I said, I hope they don't do the 90s Supergirl that was like a plastic like clone of some sort. That one was weird and I didn't understand it. It does not make sense. And sometimes those comic books get weird, but I feel like they just need to stop being so weird.
And I
Um,
will I will mention this too. I know at the top, you were talking about the prior work of Gillespie. Right now, he's still in talks. I just want to clarify that too, because so that can change. Doesn't mean that he is, right now shooting the film. For those that may not be familiar, with that lingo, a lot of if we're talking about in talks, is that they're right at the final stages. Things are still being negotiated, but things sometimes still fall apart at this stage when they're in talks. So he isn't definitively the director yet. He's just right now the choice as it stands. So um but unless you have any other thoughts, spills, that is going to wrap up this edition of This Week in Pop
oh,
Culture. I want to
ladies
thank
and
you guys
gentlemen.
so much for watching, whether you're watching live or after the fact. Before we go, as always, I'll punt it over to you, Spills. Tell folks where they can find you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you can find me. Let's get the piece up. See if it works. Yes, find me on Instagram at Truly Spill. We will be watching um, the eclipse on Monday. So please don't look directly at the sun like certain people who used to live near me but don't live near me no more. They live now in Florida. But don't look directly at the sun. Guess how you hurt your eyes, ladies and gentlemen. So take care of yourselves, please.
Yes, please take care of yourselves. You can find me at on X at Brandon Troy ENT, and IG at Brandon Troy _ENT. I'll also make a couple of announcements here. We will have the return of rediscovering the Federation, which is our breakdown show of Star Trek Discovery. That will be happening tomorrow at 11:30 Eastern Standard Time, 8:30 or skis. Yes, 11:30 Eastern Standard Time, 8:30 Pacific Standard Time, and also have another announcement, guys, and I have yet to announce this, but I will be hitting the promo after our show right now. Is that we will have a anniversary show for the premiere of the series Tales from the Crypt. Yes, Tales from the Crypt. That show. We will have Bill Sadler, who was in that very first episode of Tales from the Crypt. Reflecting on the show and what it was like to kind of get that show up and running. Of course, he was not only in that very first episode of Tales from the Crypt, he would go on to star in one of its movies. If you recall, Demon Knight with Jada Pinkett Smith, he was in that film as Breaker. But yes, we will be talking Tales from the Crypt, which I'm super excited about. I love, anthology horror series, particularly that one, and the run that it had on television. So it should be a lot of fun. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Be safe out there, guys, and see you soon. Peace. See if I get us here. Oh, it's not.
You're frozen.
Here we go. It's frozen on us. Here we go. Here we go. Okay. Later, folks. Hey, we got it.
Yay.
See you guys.